Koepke on your left. You see the flames and the steam coming off of him because you can't stop him if you want to.
Yeah.
He's kind of hot right now.
And Glenn Jones somehow in the top 4 of the... Oh. No, that's Nick Carlson. Glenn Jones just hanging out, doing some text coverage.
Going to be doing a written coverage for you guys here so you can read about it a little bit later. Koepke, if you take a look at his deck is just trying to do the same thing, everything, which is put a Gristlebrand or perhaps an Iona into play. I think it's going to want to be Gristlebrand here.
Yes.
Super consistent what it's trying to do. It's got a little bit of protection and force of will and daze, and little proactive elements as well with Thoughtseize and Cabal Therapy. So, he just wants to be as proactive as he possibly can, and Nick's job, and he is the control deck in this game, is to try to stop him. Can he stop him?
Well,
that's a better question.
We're going to find out.
Yeah.
He does have 4 discard spells split between 2 Thoughtseize and 2 Inquisition, as well as Snapcaster. Kind of get those back if you buy enough time. 4 Force of Will and a counter spell as well. Brainstorms and Ponders to sort of dig to those. And 1 Vendilion Click, also quite a disruptive card. This game 1 is going to be...
Oh, so it is Stunner Tay-Tay.
Wow.
All right, we got
it. Was typoed on the thing. It would have been a lot easier.
Hey, we appreciate the tweets, though.
We do.
Because I'm on it. Stunner Tay-Tay. Tyler Johnston.
Don't worry about it.
You still win. Stunner Tay-A, if you're a Twitter handle, you don't win.
Sorry, man.
Sorry, Stunner.
That's like it's kind of a blowout.
Sorry, Stunner Tay-A, but you don't win.
All right, so trying to see who plays first and who draws first. Devin has the play.
Look out.
No,
Devin's your 5 and Carlson's your 8.
Yes.
Yeah.
Devin does have the play. Fairly huge.
Yep.
Fairly huge. Gets the first crack at a discard spell, in the discard spell versus discard spell sub-game.
Yeah, which is part of this matchup,
Absolutely.
to be sure.
You can take their discard spell so that they can't take your good card. Very important. As well as, it's going to be a lot harder for Nick Carlson to get to 3 mana for his Snapcaster into discard spell or Vendilion Click. Yeah. And another card that is definitely worth mentioning here is the one Caracas.
Could play a huge role here.
Yes.
Could play a huge role. Most of the creatures that Devin does have, especially for game 1, are Caracasable. The only one that's not is Blazing Archon, and that one's not even that big of a deal anyway.
Yeah.
Gristlebrand can be bounced, so can Iona, and so can Elish Norn. So this game 1 at least is going to boil down to getting a Gristlebrand in play, as I feel that's the most important of the threats.
Absolutely.
And just letting it run rampant.
Absolutely. We say he's going to want to reanimate Gristlebrand. We should clarify, he wants to reanimate Gristlebrand first.
Yes.
It will likely, the first Gristlebrand will likely not go all the way, but drawing 14 cards will likely be able to carry him into the next reanimation spell, along with some more counter magic and discard, and run Nick Carlson out that way. So, we are about to start game 1 of our semifinals here in Kansas City. I'd like to thank you guys at home for joining us here. Devin Koepke on the play. Fans his opener. We got lands and spells. I can see that from here.
Good eye. Are those lands and spells a keep? That's the question.
Well, he's got a Careful Study, some black cards, and lands. In the dark, I'm going to say it's a keep. And looks like Devin is keeping. Ooh, no, he's actually still thinking about it. There we go. There's
he looks
the,
happy. He's
there's
just
the
trying to figure
nod.
out what he wants
Yeah.
to do, and he does play an Underground Scene, does pass the turn back. Carlson's going to take a draw step here. He is going to play a Tundra, and he will pass back. So we are underway here in semifinals. Force of Will is the draw here for Koepke. As you do see him thumb a Verdant Catacombs forward and does just pass the turn back. So no manipulation or anything of that sort getting cards in the graveyard just yet for Devin, as Nick is going to play a Flooded Strand, and you are going to see our first Brainstorm of the match.
Well, you brainstorm main phase here because once you crack your fast to shuffle away your 2 bad cards, your ideal follow-up to that is a discard spell. Brainstorm, an instant, you want to cast it as an instant a lot of the time, but you don't want to tunnel vision yourself into that being the only mode. When the card you're digging for is a sorcery, it's pretty important that you allow yourself the opportunity to draw it and cast it. Devin, on the other side, does have the Brainstorm of his own to potentially hide cards from any discard spells that may be cast. And we also see the main deck Caracas in Devin's hand, so he's not going to have to worry about Nick Carlson peeling his one off because he has his own.
And Caracas additions to Reanimator decks is something that we did see a couple Grand Prix ago. As you're going to see a Thoughtseize here from Carlson.
Sorry, it was not a brainstorm, it was the careful study. So Thoughtseize is going to resolve. And
you see a hand of 2 copies of Reanimate, a Force of Will, a Careful Study, a Caracas, and a Swamp. As Nick does decide what card he wants to take. Again, Caracas was added to these reanimation decks a little while ago for Grand Prix when Animator was running rampant as a way to, of course, one-up other Caracases. People were considering trying to play Wastelands and this other stuff, but why bother doing that when you can just kill their own Caracas with your own?
yes, uncounterably, and you can preempt it so that they can't slow roll the Caracas, then play it and get a bounce off it before you waste it. I mean, it is the ideal answer to a Caracas, is your own. Plus, pretty good against Legends.
Yeah, and pretty good in the mirror, too.
Yep.
As you see, Koepke does draw a Lotus Petal, puts it right in his lap, and he's going to pick it up. So, so we're just going to move on past that. As you do see, Nick draws an Engineer Explosive, so draws a card with close to no text in this matchup.
Yeah. I'm willing to say absolutely no text.
So you do see a Brainstorm here.
A good card to
Nick is
put back with
considering.
the Brainstorm
Yeah.
is the text on that.
And now we see a Stoneforged Mystic. So now Nick is going to start to establish his clock. You're likely going to search for the Batter Skull.
If he didn't have a play there, it's very possible that he should have brainstormed in response to the Stoneforge trigger. What he is doing is opening himself up to a daze. He's seeing Devin's hand. He knows he doesn't have the combo or the daze where he could peel the other. I think I like brainstorming there. He had enough dead cards to get rid of. Yeah. Instead, he's got to find another shuffle effect to get rid of that Engineered Explosives.
You'll see Koepke did draw a 3rd Reanimate for the turn. He does play Lotus Petal in addition to his land for the turn, so that he can hardcast a Force of Will. But presumably, we are going to see Carlson put a Batter Skull into play right now. So nothing. There will be nothing for Devin to counter on this turn. Germ Token comes in.
The coolest Germ
and
token.
He is going to untap. He's going to draw, and we are going to see an attacker for 5. And now Devin is on a 4-turn clock. Now a 3-turn one of those reanimates that he does have stuck in his hand will actually accelerate that process as he draws another reanimate.
Not ideal for Devin.
Is this a Manager coming off of a heater?
It may
Cooling
be.
down real fast?
He's still, he still has a lot of draws. He has a lot of redraws. Land not too good there, though.
By drawing a land there, as he's moved down to 10 life, this attack's going to put him down to 5, and those reanimates have just been turned off now.
Yes, sir, they have indeed. We're going to need more than, an enabler. We're going to need a brainstorm into runner, and he does not find it. Does not find his miracle this time.
Yeah, and we do see a concession here, so Nick Carlson does take down that game, able to have a little discard, take care of the Careful Study, but overall, pretty bad draw there for Koepke.
Yeah, well, he was considering mulliganing, and, looking back on it, maybe he should have. It's easy to say in hindsight.
Reanimator is a deck that does mulligan fairly well,
Yeah,
so
doesn't need a critical mass of cards. Just needs a specific combination
2-card combo
of them. Exactly. Devin there really wanted to win that game. He's on the play, and he doesn't have to face the hate.
Yeah.
Reanimator normally wanting to win, all of their game ones, and usually does. Very high percentage.
It's
Losing
a
that game
very,
one-
very good game 1 deck.
Absolutely, and losing game 1 is going to make this match a lot harder for him.
And speaking of hate, as I ask you this trivia question for 6 months of premium, again, to be able to get that question, to be able to get that 6 months, be eligible, of course, you have to do the answer right and hashtag your answer to SCG Premium.
Well, don't make that the answer. I want to talk about that card immediately.
Well, that's the answer to the question. All right? So we're going to have to delay that for like 70 seconds.
Okay.
All right? Because it's the only thing I thought of. There is a 3 of in Nick Carlson's sideboard that is pretty good against the old Graveyard Strategy deck. Might be able to remove a card that's being reanimated or animate-deaded. And if you're able to name that 3 of that hue, we don't see it very often anymore.
No,
It's
been a while.
We see one that has Phyrexian mana.
Variant, yes.
Yeah, variant, if you will, if this is an
A
obvious
knockoff. A sneezy to the Kleenex.
If you're able to name that card, we will choose one of the winners and give away 6 months of premium. So, head it over to hashtag SCG Premium as we cut back to the match. So AJ, you can talk about said card in a moment. I'm gonna go over Koepke's. I'm gonna delay it a little bit, so maybe people forget the question.
Well, we've talked about it before. We're gonna talk about it again. The show and tell plan against Graveyard.
Yeah, I mean, those are certainly going to come in here, as it does give Koepke another way to be able to put a big doofus into play. But another thing that that Koepke is going to be able to do is, you guys see the sideboard on the screen. He needs to sideboard somehow these big doofuses that don't have much of an impact, and sideboard in some good ones, so you can believe that Blazing Archon's going to go. Elvish Norn, you can make an argument for keeping it in or boarding it out, but one card that's certainly going to come in is Inkwell Leviathan. That'll come in, Island Walk, untargetable, all those good things.
Gonna grab a Slurpee.
Yeah, it's going to give the beatdowns, because that's what it does.
And then
Tidespout Tyrant may join us here, not entirely sure. It does like a pretty nice job of fading removal when you do an animate dead on it. You can put a spell, bounce it back to your hand, bounce the animate dead back to your hand, Tidespout and go to the graveyard, then you can animate dead it again and kind of put the person into a soft lock that way, never be able to remove the threat. It's something I've seen Jerry Thompson do with animator decks in the past. Jerry, a big fan of Tidespout Tyrant in these kind of decks. So we could see those come in, but Show and Tell is the easy one that'll join us. And then maybe Flusterstorm to fight over some stuff, but maybe not. We'll see what Koepke decides he wants to do. But for Nick Carlson, there's one on the list there that I think he's almost certainly going to bring in.
Which I will get to in a moment, but first we want to talk about the more generalized hate. A 5th discard spell in the form of Inquisition of Kozilek, and a 6th and 7th discard spell in the form of Cabal Therapy, which can also be the 8th and 9th, right?
Yes, it can.
Yes. Were those numbers good? Spell Pierce, also not too bad against the deck that is trying to play a lot of instants and sorceries on tight mana in the early turns. Pretty good there. And 3 Geist of St. Traft probably coming in. Gotta close the clock. And just because you have so many cards that you need to take out. But the card of the hour is 3 Extirpate. Split second Surgical Extraction. Can't Phyrexian mana it, but you also can't respond to it.
And that's the big deal there, is that no response is a card that we have not seen in a very long time. A lot of people have moved towards Surgical Extraction, which is understandable, it being free and all, and working very well with Snapcaster Mage, and any deck can play it. But Extirpate having split second may be, you know, there's a trade-off there.
Oh, excuse me, it's not Extirpate, it's Extirpate. I've never heard of this card.
That's a new card.
Yeah, it must be new.
Unglued. But Extirpate is a card that, you know, there's a trade-off there. For split second, you actually have to use the black mana, and not all the decks can cast, where Surgical Extraction can. So we'll see if the split second actually does play a huge role in this matchup or not. But one thing that you brought up with Spell Pierce being very good in this matchup makes you wonder if you're going to see Koepke maybe bring in those 2 City of Traders in his sideboard.
Yeah, I mean, they are almost definitely coming in. I think that anytime you're bringing in the show and tell package, you almost have to bring them in because you're raising your curve so much. We only have 16 lands in the main deck.
So you can board up to 18.
Yeah, boarding up to 18 and double lands. The Soul Ring lands, allowing you to cast that 3-drop, pretty important.
But don't forget about those 4 Lotus spells he has in his deck as well that can temporarily accelerate him.
Yes.
Something that you often see in Sneak and Show decks and not Reanimator decks, but Devin has made some nice use of that over the course of this week and allowing for his deck to have some much more explosive draws.
Well, you need that in a field full of Deathrite Shamans, you know. They do suffer from the summoning sickness.
Yeah, you gotta power through.
Yep.
So we see, I believe, Nick taking a mulligan down to 6 cards here. Koepke has been happy with his hand. No deciding on a mulligan, as you did see in game 1. He was unsure of himself.
He took his jacket or hoodie off. He lost the game, and it's just like, oh man, I have to try. All right, game mode, game face.
It's not fair, is it?
He's not used to losing this weekend.
You do see an island, and Koepke does just pass the turn, so we are underway here in game 2. A Plains from Esper Stoneblade player Nick Carlson, and we'll see what Devin is able to run into here. So just pass the turn back, and this hand looks very reminiscent of game 1.
Nick is little having some color difficulties. He does have some good sideboard cards in his hand. I saw an Extirpate. I believe I saw a Spell Pierce as well, but not so good when you can't cast them.
Now, game one, the problem that Koepke had is that he had a careful study and he had reanimation spells, but he was looking for a big threat to play, and he didn't want to cast a careful study and hope to quote unquote get there. So he did not. He was hoping to run into one of his threats and then be able to draw and discard that way, and he wasn't able to do that. And it looks like he's kept a similar hand as you're seeing him sacrifice the polluted delta, search for a basic swamp to fade that wasteland. He's casting Entomb for Gristlebrand, so we might now see Koepke try to resolve this careful study and try to get there because he has more reanimation spells than he actually has big threats, so it's a little more reasonable now. So Koepke will draw a card, and you see him draw an Inkwell Leviathan. So that's a good card to have in the graveyard as well, and he is going to lead off with that careful study.
A 1, a 2!
2 draw steps reveal a Thoughtseize and a Verdant Catacombs to go along with that Inkwell Leviathan. Force of Will, Lotus Petal, and you see him move a Caracas as well. So he does not get there on the careful study, as you see him discard a Lotus Petal and a Verdant Catacombs, and now you're going to see Thoughtseize. So we're going to get some information here.
Keeping the Inkwell Leviathan in your hand so that in addition to drawing 2 reanimation spells for your Gristlebrand, you're also drawing 2 the Show and Tells for your Inkwell Leviathan.
The hand for Nick Carlson: Extirpate, Force of Will, Vendilion Click, Thoughtseize, Spell Pierce, and a Batterskull. Appreciate him spreading it out there.
A bunch of really good cards in this matchup.
Yeah.
If you could cast them.
That's correct. And, you know, this is actually a difficult spot to be in here because, you know, you do want to take Force of Will, that's the obvious one, but you are a little bit scared of Extirpate there, and, you know, Thoughtseize is actually able to break things up as well, and you're kind of banking on the fact that Carlson just does not draw a land.
Yeah. I believe that Devin has a Force of Will of his own, so he can stop at least one thing, right? Oh, that's another reason to keep the Inkwell Leviathan in your hand is it is a blue card.
Conveniently a blue artifact.
His only other blue card in his hand, so I think that he does take the Force of Will. I was going to say, I think that you could make an argument for taking the Extirpate there. And leading with the Caracas, missed. Nick Carlson missed. Leading with Caracas is a little interesting because it does get wasted, and then Nick could have his own Caracas, but, you know, less relevant with the reanimation targets at play here. And a Batterskull. Beatdowns.
So Batterskull is going to come into play here on Koepke's end step. He did draw an Entomb for the turn, and you saw City of Traders, his other draw over the past 2 turns, so he has not found that reanimation spell yet. Plenty of them to draw to, as well as Show and Tell, so he has a lot of live draws here. As you see Carlson come across for 5, going to bring Koepke down to 12, and again, Carlson has plenty of live draws. He just hasn't found a land yet. As you're going to see, Koepke is going to cast Entomb to get a card out of his deck.
Yep, doesn't want to draw that Iona, so you want to get it out of your library. Makes sense.
You know, he's in a very nice situation here, where, you know, he has an Iona and a Gristlebrand in the graveyard. He has an Inkwell Leviathan in his hand, so if he draws Show and Tell, he's good to go, and if he draws any of his reanimation spells, he's also doing just fine. He just needs to draw one of his action cards now.
Yes.
As he's going to turn over an Underground Sea.
Not the miracle he was asking for there.
And that's a land that he can't even play this turn because it'll blow up his City of Traders. Carlson draws his card for the turn. He's going to get in for 5. Again, I do not think that it is a land.
Weird game.
Very, very weird game. Koepke goes down to 7.
Ooh,
and it is a land.
That is huge.
And that's another land for Koepke. So his draws have been incredibly erratic this game. City of Traders is going to bite the dust due to Verdant Catacombs. And that Flooded Strand may wrap things up here. And that second one almost certainly will now.
He's got access to a lot of different types of hate here.
You see Koepke is a little bit frustrated here. He's running his hands through his hair because he can't believe that he's missed this many times in a row. And
I can't believe he's about to lose a match. How messed up is that?
But I mean, he has, you know, he's had some fortunate draw steps while he's been on camera, and he's had some unfortunate ones in this match. Last match, you know, he drew some cards on time that, you know, were quite good, but this match he has just missed. He had plenty of outs. He draws another Verdant Catacombs, shows his hand, and extends it. Nick Carlson with Esper Stoneblade will be moving on to the finals in a matchup that we thought would lean maybe towards Koepke, especially game 1.
Yep.
But some unfortunate draws makes it so it isn't so.
My bracket.
It is currently busted. Welcome to the NCAA tournament, AJ.